Hello, everybody. Happy Halloween! I hope that everyone is good at home. It's good to see you. I am May Leets. You might remember me from the internet. I've done things and stuff. Right now, admittedly, I am on the road. I'm going around the whole country right now. I am in a hotel room making a video, which is a new one for me, a little bit strange. So I felt like it would be best to go ahead and make it comfy and at home as possible. Maybe we could get a little spookier in here. You know what I mean? Now loading spookiness. Okay, slightly spookier in here now. Hello, I've got a thing to tell you about. I have just seen Evil Dead Rise, and I have a lot of thoughts about Evil Dead Rise. It would take me a minute to tell you about all of them. I'm gonna try to do it right now. Hold on to your pants. So Evil Dead is a series that I love. The first movie was like one of the movies that I saw when I was a kid that like really deeply affected me. Like for the first time, I was just like, wow, this is a scary movie. It's like super nihilistic. One of the first times I ever saw something that deeply unsettled me because there just was no silver lining. Everything just got worse. It's just like completely chaotic. Evil Dead 2 was like the roadmap. It's like one of the best independent films of all time. It's like crazy well made. Everything they do in it is super next level. Army of Darkness, I didn't know was attached to Evil Dead because I saw it when I was a kid and it was like a completely different experience. What I think everyone expects from like an Evil Dead movie or experience. It was like very specifically silly. It was like silly in a very specific way that I feel like nothing is silly in that way except for like Evil Dead 2, but even Evil Dead 2 has less of that cheeky quality. A very unique experience when I was a kid because I realized at that point that movies could be all kinds of craziness. They could be whatever you wanted, basically. And then the remake came out, which I want to say it was like 10 years ago, just like ballpark. It's been a while. Saw that movie and I was super surprised because it was one of the very few remakes I've ever seen, or at least in that era when everything was getting remade. It just like drastically changed my perspective on remakes because I realized not every single one of them is going to disappoint you, dude. Sometimes you're going to see a remake and it's going to be banging. It's still like just as gory. If anything, the effects were updated, but formula remained the same. For the last 4, 5, how many is that? Delivered every time with something kind of different, but also somewhat consistently the same. Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 are like a very specific formula. I think the remake follows that formula like pretty much to a T. And then this new one does also, but it makes a couple little changes that don't just change it, but like completely alter your experience of Evil Dead completely. I had a very huge reaction to the new movie, but nevertheless, I'm like always skeptical because like this is a reboot. I also just saw the Mario movie. So disappointing because not because of the voice acting. Honestly, I thought the voice cast was like all right. I thought most of the things in the Mario movie were all right. The animation is pretty cool, but the problem is there's just like no story. It's just like plot beat after plot beat after plot beat, moving from set piece to set piece without any sort of overall narrative or any kind of point. It feels like the entire movie is just made for people to look at it and be like, that's Mario, Nintendo Switch. When you see an Evil Dead reboot, you're thinking, oh god, like, are they going to ruin Evil Dead now for me? There's Ash. That's his car, the Buick. I don't know why my viewpoint on things is so damn cynical, but for some reason, like every time I see something, it feels like it's kind of going through the motions, which is frustrating when you want things to be like new, cool, fresh, original, but at the same time, like get the core of why I like Evil Dead. So I really wanted it to be that. And what I will say first and foremost is that I'm always surprised when a movie kind of delivers for me. And I'm also really surprised whenever an idea like really works out, but also when a movie just goes there. Like it knows where it's gonna go that could be kind of like a little bit on the spooky side, and it does it. Not necessarily to say that it's scary, but it's just like on an ethical level. I'm always like fascinated by movies that like break through those barriers and do those things. I have a video that I haven't made yet, but I have a script for it that's about Terrifier 2. Terrifier 2, I think, is a great example of a movie that you don't expect to go where it goes, but but it goes there and it stays there and you're like a hostage. I really like that the new Evil Dead movie does some of that for me. I really like it when a movie actually tries to challenge me in a way that I don't usually experience. Wouldn't it be nice? I feel like it would be super duper nice. The general sense I got from the trailer was that it was Evil Dead, but now there's a family. Like, what if the events of Evil Dead, which we all know about as being like violent and chaotic and crazy in a domestic household situation. I don't know how I feel about spoilers in this context. Like, I don't know if it spoils the movie to tell you that the movie is an Evil Dead movie, so like that's gonna happen, like the things are gonna happen. The entire crux of my notes, my argument here, I will now be delivering spoilers, but I don't think that they're spoilers. I don't know. I have a very low standard for spoilers. I kind of feel like a good story can't be ruined because someone told you about it. I'm gonna tell you about it now. So the movie is about a family turning on each other in the most violent way imaginable. Like, characters that you love and like that are wholesome and have done absolutely nothing wrong, those characters super duper die. And they're kids. Kids that die, mom gets deaded. So there's like a lot of emotional, like deep emotional pain. There's like this personal connection in the movie that is missing from a lot of Evil Dead stuff. Like, so much Evil Dead stuff, just some random people in a cabin doing cabin shit, and then bad shit happens to those people. But this movie is like, what if family of generally nice, happy people have to turn on each other in the most violent way imaginable? So if you have any sort of family trauma, you're gonna relate to this one like big time. Kids having to fight their mother, and then like slowly the siblings become part of the mother, and then they turn into this like abomination, like amalgamation of all of them together. They attack the remaining family members as like a single unit, like a three-headed nightmare. So you're thinking, okay, well clearly what this is saying is like how the family as like a unit becomes the toxicity, not just like the one leader figure or like the main head of, it's like a hydra almost, you know? So I feel kind of silly because a lot of the things that I'm saying are literal. Like, everything I'm saying is stuff that literally happens in the movie. The movie is about a family turning on each other, which is like natural and normal. I don't mean that in like the over dramatic way, like The Witch. I don't necessarily mean over dramatic as much as I mean like over dramatized. It's like very dramatized, the breakdown of this family on an emotional level. This movie is very literal. Like, you literally watch a family break down emotionally over the course of time. Because I feel silly about it, I am a bit nuanced on this reading, but I feel like it rings true to me. It's like a specific moment where you just start locking members of your family out of your room lest they come in and hurt you or something like that, needing to protect yourself from your own family, like the only thing that you feel like you can trust. I feel like I can't be the only person who read that into the movie, but when you feel like everyone's against you, it's like a beast with many heads. One antagonist, sure, but there's like symbols for that antagonism or whatever that like idea is just everywhere, and they all kind of amalgam into one sort of thing, and then that thing becomes the antagonist and you start to see it in people. So overall, you know, I'm not out here telling you about the plot of the movie or like the fact that for some reason it starts with a DJ spinning records that have scary words on them. The future is crazy. I'm sure that there are other metaphors to draw from it. There's also the idea of like maturing. The main character goes from feeling like she doesn't really want to have a world to feeling like she should have a world. That kind of like change is implemented in her through like this identity crisis that's going throughout the movie. My point, I guess, is that there's a lot going on in Evil Dead Rise, like on an intellectual and emotional level. Like there's a lot more going on in Evil Dead Rise than you would expect from an Evil Dead movie in 2023, when it feels like every movie ever is designed to let us down. Just a completely crazy reaction from me to this movie. Like, I was kind of blown away. A couple of the effects look silly. CGI is always weird, I feel like, now for some reason. I don't know why it's super weird. There's like a realistic gun game that just came out that looks like picture perfect real. So I don't know. I always have like weird reactions to stuff like that, but I'm also fairly nuanced on it. I don't think it matters as much as there being like a really good story. And I'm really happy to say that Evil Dead Rise has a really good story that I really like. It also is gory and violent when it comes to like people killing their family, like kids getting killed in like horrific ways. I like it when things like branch out into the extreme a little bit. Like I just watched Audition the other night, and I feel like that's another situation where it's like a fairly normal movie that just has like one twist of extremity that pushes it over the edge into something like crazy and great. An example of that for sure. So I highly recommend that you check out Evil Dead Rise. It just like updates the formula of an Evil Dead movie to add this like personal level, and the personal level ends up being like the best part about the movie, in my opinion. Killed it. They kicked its ass. They beat the shit out of that assignment. I have been Mayleets, so only the briefest update, because I hate the thing where at the end of the video it's like 5 more minutes. But as I said, I'm on the road. I've been doing a lot of other stuff. I just released a book. It's called Girl Flesh. You can pick it up. There's links in the description. You can pick it up on my Bandcamp. You can pick it up on Amazon. I think you can pick it up at Barnes & Noble on the website right now. So far, a few people have read it. That's really exciting. I love it when people read my literature. I also have another book called Fluids, which came out a year ago. You can check that out too. It's the more extreme, I think, of the two. And that is pretty much it for me. Because I'm like on the road and doing a lot of stuff, like content is probably going to be more sporadic, but I'm doing my best to keep writing stuff and working. I'm talking about working with an editor to publish some of the stuff that I've written that won't necessarily be on camera. So keep an eye out for that. Also support me on Patreon, patreon.com/NickSpheres. As always, would love a sweet dollar bill. Have yourself a good day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.